I didn't plan on making a Dallas Mavericks video this soon after making one just a few days ago. But since then, obviously they got blown out by the Warriors, which was now yesterday, and coming into today, they're going to play the Warriors again for a rematch. But I think there's just a few things that I need to focus on a little bit more with the Dallas Mavericks, because I think at the moment they're one of the most interesting teams in the league. Now, before I do that, if you could drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, just dropping a like on the video really does help out how the video performs, so it would be much appreciated. Also subscribing. I make content like this every single day, so I mean, it's free. You might want to do it, you might not, but it would be appreciated. Anyways, getting back to the Dallas Mavericks, I'm going to start by talking about Luka Doncic. I know that's a shock for a Dallas Mavericks video to be talking about Luka Doncic. Who would have thought that I'd be talking about their franchise guy, the man that has pretty much kept them afloat, if you can even call it afloat. They'd be drowning, they'd be dead in the water basically if it wasn't for Luka, but he's keeping them just above surface level. But I don't know why, but this Damian Lee incident, if you can even call it that, Damian Lee basically just trash talked him, called him soft, weak, all of that good stuff. I don't have anything against trash talk. I'm not soft or anything. I'm not saying trash talk is a bad part of the game. Luka and Draymond were going back and forth. Luka has gone back and forth with other players. Draymond Green, all of these guys go back and forth all the time. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, you name it, they've all trash talked at some point in time. But there's something about Damian Lee. Like, Damian Lee is more known for being Dell Curry's husband. He's a G League player who married the right woman. That's who Damian Lee is. I'll give him a little bit of credit. He's a solid role player, just so Warriors fans don't come at me. I know he's a solid role player, but for the sake of argument, that's all he is. At very best, he's a role player. It seems weird. It reminds me of the Paul George incident, which Paul George talked about how players all of a sudden, after his incident, after his woes in the bubbles, hitting the side of the backboard, he noticed that a lot of players started talking trash about him. But I think it says something when someone like Damian Lee feels confident enough that they can go at you on offense and trash talk, not being scared of you going down the other end and embarrassing you on defense. Now, maybe this is just a false set of confidence that he has, and I'm spending way too much time talking about Damian Lee, so I'll make it short. That just kind of stuck in my head. I don't know why. Similar to the Paul George incidents where he hit the side of the backboard, I think hopefully this is a turning point for Luka Doncic, because by no means am I making this video about him saying he's been bad. He has been solid. He has been good. Solid. Like, you would say he's been great if you look at his numbers, but the reality is, after seeing last year's playoffs, we know what he can be. He came back a little bit overweight. He's been poor defensively the last 5 or 6 games. He's still not shooting the 3-ball well, but he's still their best player. He's still a top 10 player in the league. He's still a superstar and a franchise guy. I'm not disputing any of those things, but I'm saying he's still been 5% off his best, and I think Luka needs to be 5% above what he did last year to get this Mavericks team back to where they need to be back in playoff contention. Because obviously there's a number of different issues that I've kind of already addressed. Basically, in short, their 3-point shooting has been poor. Their defense hasn't picked up where it should be, considering that's the kind of moves they made. They made defensive moves. They were hoping that their defense would lift up a notch without their offense going down, when in turn their offense has gone way down and their defense hasn't improved. Actually, they've been terrible defensively. There's been a lot of issues outside of Luka. Luka is not the issue at all. Maybe it's not the Lee incident, but I just think Luka Doncic, he can raise his game to another level. Maybe that's the difference between them making the playoffs and them not. Because eventually, I have faith that Kristaps Porzingis will get back to his best. I know some people are hitting the panic button. I know some people think Kristaps Porzingis is washed. Personally, I've got probably too much confidence in him because I saw him last year. He started the season slow and people said the same kind of things. Can he get back to what he was in New York? Then the last 30 games of the season, he was absolutely fantastic in the bubble. He was absolutely incredible in that 8-game stretch. He was putting up 30 and 10. He was ridiculous. His offense is already looking better. I've seen him contest shots at the rim a bit better over the last couple of games. I know he's looked terrible switching onto guards. I've heard people say that's a terrible sign. I don't remember him really ever being that good at switching onto guards. Last year, he wasn't really that good. I know he's been bad, and hopefully he gets better, but I want to see Luka Doncic take this personally. It doesn't have to be the Damian Lee incident. He has to take something personally because the team isn't doing well enough. He's a champion. People forget that because it's the EuroLeague. Yeah, it's still the second most competitive league in the world. Luka said it's a harder league to score in. It's a very competitive league, and he won a championship and a finals MVP at 17 years of age. That is championship level experience. I don't care if you think the NBA is the only league that matters. It's not. He's got championship level experience. He's a winner. He's been a winner since he was like 14 years of age, so he expects to win, and at the moment they're not doing that. So he's got to take something personally, and I think it's time for him to just go into attack mode, like the playoffs last year. Everyone remembers last year's playoffs for his heroic shot, that ridiculous shot he made from 40 feet, 35 feet against the Clippers, step back 3. Wow, it was incredible. Second year in the league, first year in the playoffs. Wow, amazing. The reality is that series he dominated because he was able to just get into the heart of the defense and anywhere from around 10 feet to the rim, he was able to score on. He's got some of the best touch in the league. He's just very crafty, and that's what I want to see him do more. In the playoffs, he shot over 60% within that 10 feet range and did so on over 10 attempts a game. This is in the playoffs against one of the best defenses in the league. Now in the regular season, he's down to 9. It's not a drastic fall off. His efficiency is a little bit down as well. And I don't think it's anything to worry about. Again, this isn't a video of me saying Luka's been bad. Like, let me make that very clear. It's just me saying Luka needs to be exceptional because I think he can be. We all expect those kind of things of him. And I think it might just be time for him to enforce himself. People forget how big this guy is. Pause, but like you forget how big this guy is. If he wants to ship off Damian Lee back to the Santa Cruz Warriors or back to the bench, back to the end of the bench, put Seth Curry's lesser-known brother in a blender, put Eddie Murphy's character from Shrek in a blender as well. All of these people, it's time for you to take over Luka Doncic. Like, he can do that. He can put someone in a blender 5 times in a row, go down the floor and just body them, get straight to the rim. I know he's been doing that. I know he's been getting double teamed and he's trying to find shooters when in reality he's got people that can't hit the side of a barn door on an open 3-point attempt. I understand all of those things, but at the same time, maybe just give a bit more effort. Try to get to the rim at every single opportunity. Don't settle for threes. Like, we've got to cut out the threes. That's a whole different issue, but can we stop settling for threes because it's just not a good shot for you at the moment. It's just not. Eventually, it'll probably turn around because you're a decent enough free throw shooter. The form's not terrible, but at the moment, just get to the rim. Just get your teammates good looks. Just do it a little bit more. Little bit more effort. Luka, I think it's time he needs to backpack the Mavericks. I know. It's his 3rd year. It's crazy, but those are the expectations we have of him. And if he wants to be the MVP, the best player in the league, this is what he's got to do. He's got to go through this tough patch, and he's got to carry this team because at the moment, no one else can hit a shot. No one else can create for themselves, apart from sometimes Kristaps Porzingis. Even still, that's very inconsistent. People are pretty much saying the Mavericks are in serious trouble. Let's be honest. They had a lot of injuries and protocol to start the season. Maxi Kleber, Kristaps Porzingis, Josh Richardson, Dorian Finney-Smith all missed significant game time with protocol or injuries. And then over the last 6 games, here's what's happened. They got blown out by the Warriors. No excuse for that. Kelly Oubre did hit more threes in one singular game against the Mavericks than he'd hit all season long, and a bit of that is just bad luck. The reality is he's not a very good shooter, and he just got hot. That happens, but at the same time, you were giving him good looks. They got blown out by the Warriors, but then the 2 games before that against the Suns, Devin Booker hit a final shot against them, which was a little bit lucky. They should have won that game. Then the game before that, they missed a lot of open threes. The Phoenix Suns came back from a 4th quarter deficit to beat them. They had 2 terrible games against the Jazz. Pretty inexcusable against the Jazz. So I'm not going to give them any excuse for that. They shouldn't have won those games. They were terrible. They played poorly, and they deserved to get blown out. They had a couple of players missing, but no excuses. It was just bad. Apart from that, they then also lost closely to the Denver Nuggets by 4, blowing a final quarter lead again. Like, if you were to just flip one of those Suns games, which they should have won at least one of those Suns games, probably 2, and say the Denver game where they blew a lead, all of a sudden they're 11-12, having fought through a lot of injuries, having fought through a lot of protocol issues, and you're thinking they're okay. All of a sudden they're 9-14, but to think that they're in absolutely crazy crisis mode because they're 9-14. When you flip a couple of games and all of a sudden they're around 500, having dealt with a lot of protocol issues, I think it's a little bit reactionary, which is what happens, but that's the reality of things, I guess. At the same time, with this being said, I think some of us were reactionary last year of our expectations. I thought this team could be a sneaky championship contender. I know that's crazy to say. Yeah, laugh at me all you want. I thought they had Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, and I thought they would have got better from a team that took a Clippers team to 6 games. Whatever, I don't need to explain my reasoning. I thought they could be a sneaky one. I wasn't thinking they were favorites or anything. But the reality is, after a hot start to last season, they were just above 500 from January. For the last 40 games of the season, they were 22-20. Maybe we needed to temper our expectations of this team. Maybe this team isn't what we thought it was. It was a fantastic offense. They lost their offensive mastermind, apparently, in Steven Silas, who was left. Maybe some of that blame goes towards the lack of offensive production, losing Steven Silas. I think they're still getting decent shots, but obviously the offense isn't as high-powered as last year. They lost Seth Curry, the best shooter of the family. Obviously, that's a big loss. And then another little dark horse thing that I heard about JJ Barea from Tim McMahon said that JJ Barea was the locker room leader. He's gone. Luka Doncic seems to be losing his head a bit more than last year, probably because they're losing, but also maybe JJ Barea is not there to just kind of calm him down with his calming influence, Master Sensei JJ Barea. It's just a few things that on the surface level you think Seth Curry getting traded for Josh Richardson, that's a win-win trade. Maybe all of a sudden they need that offense. JJ Barea leaving, you're like, he's a 40-year-old 5'2" point guard. What's the difference going to make? No disrespect to a champion. Obviously, sunned LeBron in the finals. Let's not forget that. But still, like, what difference is he going to make? He's averaging 2 points a game. Jalen Brunson, Trey Burke are better players, but leadership underrated. Maybe that's the difference between Luka losing his head on a couple of occasions, them having a voice in the locker room, a few of those things. Steven Silas leaving as well. Assistant coaches don't get enough credit. Maybe that's a big difference between their offense not being as fluid. Just a number of things maybe piling up for the Dallas Mavericks to go with protocol, to go with a couple of close losses, to go with Luka maybe being 5% below what he could be, what he was last year. And all of a sudden, that's why you're 9-14 instead of 14-9. I don't know why Dell Curry's son-in-law saying those things about Luka got stuck in my head, because it's just, I don't know, it's the fact that it was Dell Curry's son-in-law. It's just something about that incident that feels to me that there's just they think there's some kind of mental and physical fragility with Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks as a whole. It's not just Luka, it's the Dallas Mavericks as a whole. Last year, the Clippers did the same thing. They tried to get in the head of Luka. They tried to get in the head of the Mavericks people because they just don't think they're a serious team. They're not scared of the Mavericks. They're a young team. They're led by a young player. They're not really a physical team. They brought in James Johnson, but he's just not a very good player. So reality is he can't be on the floor at all times trying to stick up for people. Luka might have to do it himself. He doesn't have to do it by punching out people. He's got to do it by dropping 40 points a night. And over the next 5 games, I want to see him be really aggressive, go into attack mode, start making his shots, Mavericks players, play a bit more defense, and all of a sudden, you might go from a team that has no hope to a team that's back in the playoff picture and a team no one wants to face because they've got Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis healthy in the playoffs.